In Tunisia, a nation celebrated as the birthplace of the Arab Spring and once a symbol of hope for democratic transformation, a very different struggle is now taking shape on the streets. On a tense Saturday in late October, hundreds of citizens marched through downtown Tunis, their voices echoing through the capital, protesting not politics directly, but something far more fundamental: the right to breathe clean air. What began in the southern coastal region of Gabes, long known for its natural oasis and Mediterranean beauty, has now poured into national streets, turning pollution into the latest flashpoint in Tunisia's increasingly strained political landscape. The protesters see this not as just environmental negligence, but as a symbol of a government losing grip on the promises it once championed. Their chants pierced the atmosphere. Gabes is dying. Tunisia will not stay silent. Gabes, once described in tourism brochures as a paradise on the sea, has over several decades turned into what locals now call a sacrifice zone. Its misfortune stems from being home to a major state-controlled phosphate processing complex, part of Tunisia's powerful chemical group, GCT. Tunisia is one of the world's largest phosphate exporters, and that means Gabes provides a large share of national revenue. But the profit has come with a devastating price. Toxic gases burned into the sky each day, and nearly 6,000 tons of industrial waste dumped into the sea daily, according to environmental groups. Residents have long reported rising cases of asthma, respiratory disorders, bone disease, and cancer, patterns that medical professionals and activists directly link to long-term exposure to phosphogypsum waste and gas emissions like sulfur dioxide. Yet year after year, these complaints were dismissed as the unavoidable costs of economic development. The crisis recently escalated when dozens of school children in Gabes collapsed with breathing difficulties as toxic fumes leaked from a phosphoric acid plant. A chilling moment that shook the country and triggered a new wave of demonstrations. For parents watching their children gasp for air, this was the breaking point. Videos of terrified students being evacuated spread across social media, igniting outrage. Environmental campaigners like Hani Faraj, one of the leading voices of the Stop Pollution movement, told Reuters that what is happening is nothing short of slow murder. He warned that if Tunisia does not act fast, Gabes could become a place where livelihoods perish and a community becomes forced migrants on its own land. Fishermen say their catches have collapsed over the past decade, as waste discharged at Chat Es Salam has destroyed marine ecosystems, leaving boats idle on dry docks and families struggling to afford daily meals. Yet what is unfolding in Tunisia is not merely an environmental or medical story. It is deeply political. President Kais Saied, who seized sweeping powers in 2021 by dissolving parliament and ruling by decree, now faces what many analysts see as his biggest public challenge since that controversial power grab. His administration already struggles with a shrinking economy, skyrocketing prices, and a weary population that feels the revolution has failed to deliver dignity and opportunity. So, when protests from a southern region spread into the capital, the alarm bells rang inside the presidential palace. Saied condemned the situation in Gabes as an environmental assassination, placing blame on criminal policies of past leaders. But critics argue that blaming history doesn't fix the present, and the government's response has included arrests, which protesters call pure repression. The fear among officials is simple. What begins as environmental anger could evolve into a national anti-government movement, just like 2011. Trying to calm the streets, Saied announced that the industrial facilities would undergo urgent repairs to stop gas leaks. Health Minister Mustafa Farjani also promised the construction of a new cancer treatment hospital in Gabes, an acknowledgement that the disease has become too common to ignore. but residents reject what they call bandage solutions. Their demand is clear: shut down and relocate the polluting units permanently. Tunisian authorities push back, saying that closing phosphate plants would endanger thousands of jobs and a crucial economic sector. And that tension lies at the heart of the crisis. Can Tunisia afford environmental justice when its economy is already collapsing? Protesters respond that the real cost is being paid by their lungs, their children's futures, and a sea once filled with life. Environmental experts warn that Tunisia now stands on the edge of an irreversible disaster. Phosphogypsum waste, which contains heavy metals and radioactive elements, continues to seep into soil and waters. The once famous Gabes oasis, the only coastal oasis in the Mediterranean, is losing agricultural fertility. Local biodiversity that attracted researchers worldwide is disappearing. Tunisia's own Institute of Marine Sciences has documented severe degradation of fish species, threatening a centuries-old fishing culture. The tragedy is that locals believe this was all preventable. If only successive governments had invested in cleaner technologies, demanded accountability from the chemical group, and listened to the voices of scientists who raised red flags decades ago. But perhaps the most significant shift now is that the residents of Gabes are no longer alone. Activists from across Tunisia, students, unemployed youth, civil society organizers have brought their anger to Tunis, signaling a broader national awakening. Many who joined the march say pollution represents more than poison in the air. It represents corruption, unkept promises, and leaders prioritizing profit over people. There is also a growing fear that Tunisia is sliding back toward authoritarianism. When people protesting for clean air are detained, when outrage becomes criminalized, and when silence becomes the expectation. Tunisians recognize signs they fought against not long ago. Protest banners in Tunis did not only say "stop pollution," they also demanded rights, reform, and accountability. This crisis now raises a pivotal question. Will Tunisia allow environmental collapse to become the final chapter of a revolution that once inspired the world? The people of Gabes say they have been treated as collateral damage for too long, and they refuse to let their city become a toxic dumping ground in silence. Their cry, "We just want to breathe," is not poetic exaggeration, but a literal plea for survival. The coming months will determine whether the government chooses meaningful change or continues to stall until the streets mobilize harder. And if history has taught anything, it's that Tunisians know how to fight when their dignity is at stake. A battle for clean air could very well become a battle for democracy once again.